Hello and welcome to the final rigging tutorial for our pig. Okay, there are two things we need to add to the pig rig to get it finalized. Okay, first thing we need to add are controllers. And we have one controller around the waist and one controller on the floor. The floor controller is kind of like his little world, so you can move him into, like, depending on your scene, you'd move him over here. And then this one, you would animate his position, doing stuff, and rotating, anyway, those things. Okay, the other thing we're going to add is a character set. A character set, so here I have a character set, and I have opened this window, and I have saved two poses. I have the default pose and a jump for joy pose. So if I right click on default pose and go to apply pose, he jumps back to the default pose. Also, if I go to jump for joy and say apply pose, he goes to that position. Okay, so this is just a really handy way to be able to save all of the work you spend getting him into a position. So we need to set this up, and then it will work. So for now, I'm going to just go to the default pose, then delete these and get it back to where you guys should be from lesson 4. Okay. Okay, I just need to reset his position. Oh, it looks like he's keyed. Is he? Okay. Okay, so this is where you should have your pig. Okay, now I don't remember if this was in the last tutorial, but if not, or if so, the first thing we need to do is make the center of gravity joint, the small one, and the pelvis joint, the big one. And so I've just selected the pelvis joint and changed its radius to 2. Sorry, and then I selected the center of gravity joint and made its radius 0.5. Okay. Then we go to the Curves tab and pick a NURBS curve. Okay, so I click NURBS circle and I just click it onto the grid and create it. Then I want to position this one up around his waist, kind of like a hula hoop. Okay. Then we'd also need it to be in the exact same position as the center of gravity joint and the pelvis joint. So by holding down V, I'll first press W to switch to the move tool, then I'll hold down V and it makes this yellow square a circle. Then I click on the circle and drag it and it will snap. See there, it snapped to that vertice, snap to that vertice, snap to this vertice, but it can also snap to joints. So it's snapped to that joint. We want it to snap down to that joint. Now I let go of the mouse, let go of V. Okay? So that's the position we want this in. Then we need to rename it. I'm going to call it Center of Gravity Control. Okay, and now we need to freeze the transformations. So I'll go to Modify, Freeze Transformations, and that put the translates into 0, the rotated to 0, and the scale to 1. I'm also going to go to Edit and Delete by Type History, just to clear out any unneeded history. Okay, so that's our first controller. The second controller needs to just be on the floor. So I'm going to scale this up to be about the size of the grid. Then this time I want it to snap to the center here, so I'm going to hold down X, then make sure I have it press W for move, then hold down X, then click and drag it, and see how it's snapping on the grid. So I want it to snap right into the center. Okay, and this actually is in the 0, 0, 0 position, but just for good measure, I'm going to freeze its transformations, go to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and rename this one Base Controller. Okay, now if you don't have this window on the right, Control A will toggle between this window and this window. Okay, so now with these two controllers, we need to parent them into our joint structure. Okay, now I have my outliner open on the left, and to get that I clicked on this button here, or I could have gone to Window, Outliner, and that will pop the outliner out here. Okay, I'm going to have this open so I can show you two different ways to parent this. Okay, so here we have the center of gravity joint, then the center of gravity controller, then the base controller. So first I need to make these controllers in charge of the joints. So I select the child, which is the center of gravity joint, then I shift select the controller and press P. Okay, see now over here in the outliner, the center of gravity joint has disappeared because it's underneath the controller. Okay, now I want to make this base the parent of everything, so I'm going to select first the center of gravity controller, shift select the base, and press P. Okay, so now base controller is in charge, and if I go through here, I can just keep opening up the hierarchy. Okay, now sometimes it gets confusing as to whether this is the child, which one's the parent, which one you select first. Okay, so I want to show another way to do parenting that I have found to be very handy. Okay, to do that, you come over to the outliner and you just determine your objects, and I've named them. Then by using the scroll mouse or the middle click, I can do the parenting. So I click on the child and I drag it over the parent. Okay, so now it has been dropped down inside. So again, a middle click on the child, then drag it down to the parent. And now the base is the parent. If I want to unparent, which in the other method is Shift P, then I can do that as well. I just middle click on the child and drag it out into an empty space and let go. And now it's no longer a child. So again, to drag it into a child, I middle click and drag it over the object. Now it's in the hierarchy. Okay, so now we have this base controller, this main center of gravity controller, and this allows us to be able to pose our character and then come in here and say 0, and he's back to his default position. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is add a character set. Okay, so to do that, make sure nothing is selected, then go up to make sure animation is showing, then go over to character, create character set, and go to the option box. In here we can give it a name, PigRig, then press create character set. Okay, so doing that puts this character icon over here in the corner. It also put the name down here, and we can switch back to none, so it says no character set. We can go to PigRig1, or we can go down to the character set editor. So I want you to go to that next. Okay, so in here, this is called the relationship editor. It is showing us the relationship between one object or another, and right now we have the character set. And then we have over here we have everything in our scene that could be added to it. And by just clicking on something, it becomes part of the character set. then by clicking it again, we remove it. So we want to add all of the rotation values of our joints to the character set. If I select each joint, we have rotates X, Y, and Z, rotate X, Y, and Z. We want to add the rotates to our character set. So to make this list less overwhelming, I'm going to go to Show, Objects, and make sure Only Joints is selected. If something else like geometry was showing, I would go to there and uncheck it. Then I'll also, now all I see in this list are joints, and then I'm going to just go through and click on all of these square pluses and open up the hierarchy so I can see all of my joints in the scene. Down to the knees. Okay, so I have my joints and then my two controllers. Okay, next we want to see the attributes for each one of these. And by pressing the circle with the plus, it opens up the attributes. And right now I just have rotate showing. And to make it do that, I went into Show, Attributes, Joints. By default it's set to this, Show Keyable. But we only want to see the joints. Okay? So here's my center of gravity joint. So if I select that, we have the rotate values. Okay, and we want to add these values to our character set. So by making sure that this is highlighted over here, this is what it would look like if it wasn't. So I click it, make sure it's highlighted, then I press rotate X, rotate Y, and rotate Z. Okay, so now over here we see that this has been added to the character set because it's highlighted yellow. And so now we want to go through and do that to all of our joints. So I just click the circle plus, and go rotate X, Y, Z, open up the next one, and work my way down. So if along the way I accidentally click it twice, oops, it will open up this menu, or if I click it again, it will remove it from the character set. So we want to make sure that they're all highlighted blue. Three more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now that's all we needed to do inside of this menu, and we can close it. Because what that has done now is it has added all of these rotate values into this character set. And so now, if we were to go up to the Animate tab, there's this great tool called Create Pose. So if I go to it and I create a pose, I'm going to call this default, then hit apply, I've created a pose called default. Okay, and now I could go in and do some more posing and get my character to do something. I'm going to call this one sad and hit apply. Okay, it created sad. So now I can just close this. Then, to find these poses, I need to go to the Window, General Editors, Visor. Okay, and underneath the visor there are a lot of different things, but we want to find the tab called Character Poses. Right here. Now I have default and sad. So by right-clicking on it, I can go to Apply Pose, and it'll jump back, and right-click and go Apply Pose, and go back to sad. Okay, so this is a way that you can save the 4 poses you need to do to turn in this assignment, and also later on it will be very helpful when we animate our characters next week. Okay, so hopefully this tutorial was helpful, and I hope you're enjoying working on your characters. Thank you.